is that when we're stuck, it's a really hard place to be, and it's something that is not easy. I remember being in this place myself, and I still find myself getting stuck, not as severely as I once was when I was at a sort of career crossroads. But I know what the feeling of feeling stuck and like I have no choice is like. So I want to bring some softness into this as well, because I want you to know that it's not something we consciously mean to do. It happens on a physiological response, and then our thinking deepens that response. So we really, it's really not the easiest thing. So why do we feel stuck and how to get unstuck? What I would love to see or hear, depending if you use the chat box, is why do you feel stuck at the moment? Like if you do, like what is it about even just this masterclass that brought you here? What sort of, where are you stuck? Is it career? Is it relationship? Is it family? Is it with a goal that you might be working towards, or is it just not knowing your goals? So just maybe just have a think about, where am I stuck and why am I stuck? What's keeping me stuck? Like, why do we feel stuck? And if you want to pop it in and we can have a chat. If not, I can keep going.
My stuckness, if you like, it's funny how you said one thing and then kept saying the others. I would have immediately thought career.
Right.
And it's funny because I know my whys. I've had a lot of personal stuff go on in the last 12 months, and I've been single for 4 years, which isn't an issue. Like I know where I sit with it, but it's almost like if I really was honest, I could almost say everything feels a bit stuck. And I think that I'm a single mum with 2 young boys and working for myself, and I'm working online, and my world got very small intentionally but inadvertently. And I think that for me personally, the stuckness is only having so much time in a day. With now my eldest is at school now, so I've got a school drop off and pick up, which your day suddenly becomes 5 hours long. And then a 2-year-old at home one day through the week, and differing like energy levels in terms of availability with my kids is incredibly busy and full. And then there's the complete opposite where they go to their dads, and I think I just let life and cleaning and cooking and food prep and really mundane things fill it, which is so easy to do as well. Yes. And then all of a sudden it just feels like a bit of a mouse wheel, and it's not even it's I'm happy, and I'm so grateful where I've landed, but I'm not really finding that there's anything I have set out. I can't remember the last time I had a goal and achieved it. It was probably my degrees, and I'm 12 years down the line of those. So it just feels like a little bit of a Groundhog Day, but a lot of personal stuff has happened. So it's almost like, well, you can't do it all. So it's kind of like, I'm not really sure how to break out of it.
Your clarity is fantastic around it, and I'm just taking some notes as you're speaking, and thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like you've got so much on too, and having 2 children. Oh my gosh! And did you say you're a single mum too?
Yes. So we separated after my first, but we chose to have a child as co-parents.
Yes. Okay.
And that actually worked really well. So separated 4 years, but with a 2-year-old. Well, actually, he was 3 last week, so I need to start saying 3. And so that journey, I mean, the details are not particularly relevant right in this moment, but my personal journey of the separation was only difficult 1 year ago, which was quite blindsiding. So I had what I thought was a really good co-parenting situation and kind of an existence, and that was not to be true. And so I've had to do a lot of work in figuring out how I get through it, which I have. I've got an amazing somatic psychotherapist that I met a couple of months ago, which has been life-changing. Yeah. And and incredibly poignant and what's the word, like the divine timing of just finding her. And so that's great. And I feel supported in the personal stuff currently, but that it's, and I do intellectualize a lot. I'm a Virgo and high functioning and all of these things. But what I'm trying to do is be more present in my emotional state and in my physical sense of being present. But then what happens in that stuck, why this was I was drawn to it, is it's almost like a feeling of overwhelm of where do I start? Like what would even be the first step? And so it's easy to just not start anything and keep going with just what's on my plate, which is plenty, and then sort of go, oh, well, this is good enough type thing, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it does. It does. Yep, it does. And I'll speak into, thank you for sharing that, because I'm going to make it the content, I'll speak into what you've just told me as well. So as we continue, it will unfold some more information there for you.
Right. Thank you.
So you're welcome. And then I've just stopped sharing for a moment. I'm going, okay, but I feel a bit stuck using my carpentry skills to fix Raywood. Okay.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how to drive the ship very well here.
That's okay.
Yeah, like I think I'm doing a lot of unstucking.
Mhm.
I'm doing a lot of work on unsticking things,
Mhm.
but I do feel like I've actually started I'm kind of rallying my troops, I've decided. I feel a bit overwhelmed, I guess, with it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but other things are going well. And it's sort of, yeah, it's probably a bit of anxiety stuff
Mhm.
around it. But there's a lot of good things happening in my life too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, ugh, but
Yeah.
feeling a bit, I guess, I mean, it's just in my head because I have all the skills to do it. It's just, yeah.
Yes, I
I
like
do
what.
feel like I've taken on too much stuff as well, or so there's other things I need to look at.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Or
Okay, great.
timing of things and stuff. Yeah.
We'll have a look into that as well. Okay. Thank you
But
both.
it's also too, like, I know that I can get stuck.
Mhm.
So it's kind of just good to do this process to have those tools in your toolkit.
Yes. Yeah. Great.
So I've definitely been very stuck in the past.
The thing that you both have online is curiosity, even showing up today, which means that I like to talk about things on a nervous system level. So this means that even though there's that stuck feeling, there's still a part of you both that wants something more, that knows there's something else that might be missing. There's some missing information. So you've brought your curiosity online. And I'll just go into where that lives on a nervous system level. It's what we want. Okay. So on a nervous system level, I often show this, if you've seen my other videos, is the autonomic ladder. And curiosity actually lives on the ventral vagal activation, which means it's the part of us that, if you go to yoga, Kate, you were mentioning that you go to yoga.
Mm.
If you do those sort of things, you feel more like you're up here, where you feel grounded, you feel curious, open, and this is where we can be quite connected, and it feels good being in this place. And so having that curiosity tells me that you've got this online, you've got your ventral.
Ooh,
So that's
that's exciting.
that is exciting for both of you. What happens though is when we have overwhelm, I'll go with you, Kate, first.
Yep.
Overwhelm lives down here in the dorsal activation. So there's a process that happens in between. And generally it's like you said anxious too. So like it might be like, oh, I've got so much to do and I need to get it done. Like I've got like this, maybe I need to get it done quick, or we kind of don't know what the language is behind it until we slow ourselves down and start to understand it. But generally the anxiety we tend to feel is that either it comes from a place of like, I'm feeling this unease in my body, and it feels like worry that maybe I'm not on the right track, or I don't have a goal, or I don't have enough time, and that sort of thing. And so then we go into a bit of a shutdown. So this is where we feel stuck, like we've got no choice. This is where we can feel overwhelmed too in the nervous system.
Oh.
So that's the bit of a process. having also no time, it's one of those things, right? Like, especially with what you were saying, Courtney, is that if I don't have time, it feels like I have no choice, especially if I've got 2 children. That would also bring me to a place of, okay, well, I've just got to do what I'm doing now. Like, I just need to keep going and do what I'm doing now. And because we're self-abandoning in that space, because especially being a mum, where you're doing things for your kids, right? You're doing things to like to make them healthy and nourish them and all those sort of things. There's little time for yourself. So that's where we can also fall into a bit of a stuck place, because then it gets exhausting. And then when you have time, it's like you're then bringing yourself out of this dorsal shutdown activation, which is why it can be really hard to get motivated when you do have time, because it's like your body's catching up to the exhaustion of having to self-abandon, which we don't mean to do as parents, we don't mean to do at work. It's just what happens. We self-abandon our own needs to meet the needs of our children or other people, and then we feel exhausted, and then we want to rest, or we just don't have the motivation to come back up the ladder, to then be like creative and create something more for ourselves. So
That
it can
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah, okay, great. I'm glad that resonates with you. So it can be this cycle that we get stuck in, which you were saying when you were talking about, I call it also Groundhog Day. I don't know what you called it. You called it something else, but it's similar, where we have this Groundhog Day because, meeting the needs and going through that cycle, but not necessarily nourishing ourselves. So that's on the nervous system level. And with UK, I know that you would come up with many ideas. So ideas can live in the sympathetic fight flight activation. So ideas can live there because sometimes we don't slow down with the ideas that we already have, because we feel an unease about it. We feel like there's something that's not going to work. So then we try to fix it from an anxious place, which then adds more work. Because when we're fixing it from an anxious place, what's happening is we're looking for the external to come in before we ground. So what we need to do instead is ground, breathe, do something very grounding, and then take action from more of this space here, the ventral. So like, one rule that I have for myself is that I don't market my work to everyone out in the world in my business if I'm feeling anxious and if I'm feeling worried, because that energetically, and also like what I put out there, is just going to come across as like scarcity and not really nice. So a little rule you can have for yourself is, I'm not going to come up with ideas or do my work until I'm grounded. And then
I've kind of been doing that, but it feels like it's
oh, I think we lost her. She'll come back. I'll bring her back in.
Oh, we lost her.
We lost her. She'll come back. Thank you for that comment too, Courtney. The chart's awesome. I can send you a copy if you email me after this and remind me. I can send
Yeah, that'd be great. I really like the way it's laid out. Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that. So we'll come back to, I have lost it. I'm going to come back to what living out of alignment can often feel like. There she is, it's back. And why we feel stuck.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I just accidentally.
That's okay. I'm going into, so the next phase of this work is like, why do we get stuck? And how I see it is, often when we're living out of alignment, stuck is a signal or a symptom. If we took the judgment away from it and just saw it from an observer point of view, we'd see stuckness as there's missing information, and maybe it's because I'm making decisions that are out of alignment for me. So for my being, for my health, for my nourishment. We have been taught, society has also, traditional things have been taught that like the external is going to make us happy. The house, the course, the holiday, losing weight, eating healthy, the relationship. These are all extrinsic motivators, and on their own, they do not make us happy. But when we mix it in with an intrinsic motivator, which I'll talk about in a moment, that's when we mix the goal. So if we have a goal, we bring the extrinsic and intrinsic together. I always actually put the intrinsic first, and we'll move to that, because that is going to meet your inner needs and your outer needs. Because we all need a home, we all need those sort of things, absolutely. But we also need to know what our intrinsic motivators are. So these are things like emotions, feelings, sensations, energy, physiological state. So that's what I showed you on the autonomic nervous system ladder. Our conscious and subconscious belief systems, our values, our boundaries, our needs, connection to self and others, and spirituality. So generally, when I feel stuck, I know that something in my intrinsic motivation is needing some attention. So that's where I might be looking external from me to meet a need that cannot be met externally. So this is generally what could be happening as well. So what I see in this, I am back at this little form. I'll come back to that actually. So what I think of is, if I create a goal, my goal could be, so let's go with you, Kate, just to start with. So the goal is to finish your work at Raywood, would you say? Finishing the house,
Yep.
renovating the house is the goal.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the goal. How would renovating the house make you feel?
Happy.
Happy, okay.
Yeah, and well, it's deeper than that. It's like going to be really nice home. So yeah.
Yeah, home. So it's going to be a
Yeah.
nice home. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it connects to like childhood and all that sort of stuff. And I know
It's a
that,
safe place. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, safe place, beautiful. Yeah.
And somewhere where hopefully there's more like community and being able to have more connection with other people, family and friends. Yeah.
Great. Community and connection. So love this. So community and connection with others is an extrinsic motivator, but the intrinsic part of that is connection to self and feeling safe within yourself to be able to share your home with others as well, right? So we can have that goal, but if we don't feel safe to do that, then, and the safety is the intrinsic. So the safety is the intrinsic motivator. And so often we don't think about what our physiological state, what we want when we're looking at goals. So then if these are things, is there anything else? Is that what's come? That's pretty good. That sounds good. So
That's
happy.
interesting how you're saying feeling safe to share your house with others, because I do seem to get annoyed about things quite easily when people visit.
And so,
Like,
yep, because I know
yeah.
that we're doing the work together.
Yeah.
Courtney Kate works, is seeing me. I'm Kate's therapist. And so we're doing the work, the intrinsic work together.
Oh,
So then once you finish the home, you can share it and feel safe.
yeah. Because you could do all that and then just like, yep.
Yeah. And so that's how mixing that's how like meeting your goals. This is how we meet our goals, is by doing the inner work. So Courtney, it sounds like you're doing that with your somatic therapist as well. And so your goal sounds like to have time and space for yourself, would you say?
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, because every time I think or believe there's an opportunity of time, like that, life is steady and stable. Now I'll shift into sort of like, that saying, you can't just work in, what is it? You need to work on your business and in your business. It's a little bit like I just work in the business doing the appointments and the emails of just the current workload, versus I want to work on it. I want to create, diversify, more offerings, be it financial goal sets or just more. It's funny that, coming back to connection as an intrinsic motivator, I feel that one deeply because of the isolating factors around work, particularly, as well as living. So I have all these ideas and I have a lot of capacity to execute them, in that I love running workshops. I love live talking. Like, I've got this, it's a really ironic set of situations where I don't need the training. I don't need the expertise even necessarily. I actually crave the framework and some kind of accountability to say, these are the steps. And to that end, I've applied for a government business grant, and I haven't. Yeah, I've applied to apply, if that makes sense. If I get through, then they'll ask me to submit, and then I'll be on the running for money to put towards like a business mentorship, which will be the Jats cracker as far as financially being able to outsource all these things that I like. But coming back to what you were saying is yes, my therapist has been timed so perfectly, because every step that I've felt ready to submerge myself in business, I've had personal issues to overcome. And as I don't know if anyone else is in the same belief in that, I think the universe only sends you what you can handle. So I don't get busier in my work. I don't take on more. It's just enough. And I'm grateful for it, but it further adds to this stuckness and this, mouse wheel of a situation. And so what I hope by at least towards the end of this year or early next year, if I don't get the grant, I feel like I'm going to be emotionally in a more stable place with my ex and the children and all of the other stuff in my world going on, to start to execute some of this, stuff that just sits on the shelf waiting to be done.
So do you feel like if you get the grant, that takes a bit of pressure away for you to be able to be creative?
For me, the reality of the grant is that money is a barrier. So I don't have, it's a $7,500 business grant. And if I'm successful, you have to spend it on the business. And I'm dying to involve and what in my world as a naturopath and nutritionist, there's business coaches, and they are all over this. They will set up and design usually 6-month packages tailored to be acceptable on the grants. And so it's a very clear process should I get the successful grant. And I know that money isn't my only barrier. So it's not like if I don't get the grant, the whole thing will go out the window. But the time of year it is, and, me wrapping up the business by mid-December, I'm realistic in what I can start the beginning of November, but also just sort of really spending, if I'm not doing the time creating and executing business goals, it's to do the deep work of getting those intrinsic factors really robust, so that when I enter into the new year, it's going to set me up for the success of not even finishing, just starting. It's not even that I start things and not finish them. It's starting something that I've had in my mind for a long time. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you are someone that works well under pressure.
It's hard to say, because, as I said earlier, I'm incredibly grateful and lucky for a lot of things in my life. A bit what Kate said, it's not that there's all this negative, but I think I feel proud of the fact that after 12 years in my career, I spent the last 2 working for myself. And yes, it's isolating, but I'm my own boss. And so there's been I think a necessary shift of the busyness of the back-to-back appointments, of which I did, and I think it was possible slight burnout material. So I think there's still a part of me that's hesitant to dive into something that's pressuring, because I've needed to heal and I have needed to recoup, 2 babies, all of the things that deplete us. I'm very acutely aware that next steps in my business aren't actually to scale it up in a physical sense, but it's more just smart, like a one-to-many model, create some online programs that then, make me money in a much smarter way than my one-on-one work that I currently offer, if that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense. And the reason why I asked that question, because often when we turn to our own business, is either that we're looking for more of a creativity, or we're burnt out from working for someone else, or we're sort of someone that's high achieving and things like that. That's why I sort of was like, I wonder if So it sounds like you'll work through that like pressure stuff where you'll no longer want to be in that phase of your life, and you're more like, I want it to be sustainable. I want
Yes.
my intrinsic motivators to be really robust, you said, which I thought was so fantastic. You're like, you know, I really want that to come through as well. So that's great. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, thanks. And I certainly think old me would have said, yeah, bring me the challenge and, you know, nose to the grind. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think most people were, but yeah, uni degree deadlines, that's when I did it, you know, 1 to 2 days before. And I think that's just not, yeah, like you just said, it's just not sustainable, and it's not where I want to be.
Okay.
Yeah, looking at the intrinsic list, it's like
Yeah.
that's in the past, I burnt myself out. And that is everything I probably completely ignored. And maybe I'm just scared of, I'm like, it's like I'm having deja vu, but I'm like, but I'm not doing it like that. Like, it's not going to be like that. It's just going to take longer. But yeah, but.
Yes, it's the way we used to be can sometimes still be lingering there, in the sense of, on a somatic level, a physiological level. When I say that, it's not conscious really. It's not a really conscious thing until we go into like parts work and do like inner child work. But it will be there in the background, like, oh, let's get back. It's almost like, let's do it the way we used to do it because we know it works. We know that
we got
works.
it done. We got it
Yeah,
done. And I'm like,
we
yeah,
got it done.
at what cost, man?
And it's a part of my identity, right? Like, if it's a part of my identity, we got it done. So building that relationship with that part and being like, oh, actually, we're not doing it that way anymore, does create a discomfort in itself as well. So that's
Interesting.
yeah, so that's what's happening.
Because I
It's
can
like,
kind of see on a logical level that I'm kind of doing it a smart, like a sensible way, but I
yeah.
just feel, someone else is going, you haven't done anything much, man. I'm like, but I'm just figuring it out.
I love that you bring that in, because that you haven't done anything much lives in the sympathetic. So this is what
Yeah.
I'm really happy you brought that in, because
Mm.
the thought states in this state. So in your fight or flight, your thoughts are going to be, that's a really good example of a fight or flight thought. You're not
I
doing
need to fix it now is always one that I have for lots of different situations. That's good. I've got to like get this printed off and put it somewhere I can.
Yeah. I'll send you the copy. But yeah, generally that's a fight flight thought. So when you have that, what you can do is bring some awareness to it and go, oh, I'm in my fix it. Like I'm noticing, I think I need to do more. And sometimes I think I need to do more also lives down in shutdown. And here's why. It's coming from a place of possibly that's how I was worthy when I was young. Like, that's an example. It might not be necessarily like resonate with you specifically, but it could be just when it's a part of our identity, if it's how we are loved or if it's how we were praised and how we succeeded when we were young, then it generally will be in this shutdown response of, you need to do more, you should have done this, you shouldn't do that. It's like these shoulds. Like, you should be doing more. You know, you can be more productive. It can be quite judgmental in that space. So that lives more in shutdown, but it will start in sympathetic, because that's why I've got the arrows coming back up the ladder, because we go from ventral down to fight flight, then dorsal. So it's one step after the other. We come back up. So that's that. I'm glad you brought that in. So that's one way to just track the thinking that's connected when you're in this.
That's good. Yeah, seeing the thinking as well. Yeah. Because it's quite interesting. I'm like, oh, I can see that. Like when I'm like relaxed, I'm like, who cares about what anyone thinks about anything, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And then the next minute you're like, and then you catch yourself. I like that. Yeah, it's just really interesting.
Fantastic.
Doing these other things,
When you're relaxed, your thinking is, I'm on the right track, right? So like, this is just examples. I feel, so usually the thinking's more like, I feel hopeful, I feel content, I feel motivated.
Things are cool.
Yeah, and that's when you know you're regulated. That's the voice.
Because you might think you are, but then, that's interesting. That's great. Yeah.
That's the voice to listen to.
Yeah.
That's a good indicator that you're.
I wrote down too that you pointed out that I make decisions in fight or flight. And because I think I wait long enough, but I still think there's times when I do things And I'm like,
Absolutely. We
oh, but
all
now
do, Jane.
I did one the other day and I still feel uncomfortable. It's only a little thing that I just said something to my neighbor and it wasn't very big, but I'm still like, because I feel like it's trapped in me, maybe because I did it when I was
Yeah.
in fight or flight. It's nothing, it's not a big deal, but it's just like, oh no, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it can send us into a spiral, and that
it's,
can happen too.
yeah, interesting, yeah.
And the thing is, we all make decisions from the different parts of our nervous systems because
Yep.
we're not conscious of it until sometimes we reflect on it, and that's where we go, oh, okay, that's what happened. So yeah, don't feel like it's something you need to be like, you get right every single time or anything like that. It's more just
Mm,
bringing awareness to it, and then maybe upon reflection, might be like, how was I feeling when that happened? Oh, I was feeling
mm,
a bit uneasy, or my heart rate was pretty high. Actually, I wasn't. I was activated. I had something happening in my nervous system. So it's just
mm,
bringing that sort of awareness piece in. So the next thing that I bring in is like getting in touch with the fear and limiting beliefs. So generally the fear can be the parts work that we do. That's like the protector that comes in, and the limiting beliefs can be what I find is fear and the limiting beliefs are really close, but they can be the values that were really common for us growing up. So it can be our parents' money beliefs. It can be the way that we were brought up with, like how to working really hard, working, like what sort of work ethic. So that's where a lot of this stuff of stuckness can come in, because it's generally a resistance piece. So there's a part of us that wants to meet this goal and that would really like to be able to achieve the thing that we're set out to achieve, and then the resistance comes in and has an impact on our autonomic nervous system, and it makes us think that it's not possible. And so generally it's attached to a protector part of us or a belief system that we're quite identified with. And that's where the stuck feeling can happen, because it's like the example is when people are rowing a boat and the person at the front is rowing one way and the other person at the back is rowing the opposite way. So then you're just not going anywhere. And that's what that stuck feeling can be. And it can also be the Groundhog Day, but like it can be this feeling of a lack of growth, or like can't make decisions because I'm not sure which decision to make, and I'm getting confused and I've lost trust with myself. Like things like that can come up for us. So getting in touch with the thoughts can connect us to the protector, going in and noticing, like even just asking ourselves, like, what am I scared of right now? Or what's stopping me? Like even creating a dialogue with ourselves that can be supportive, but just starting to do that. Kate, you've got a therapist. Courtney, you've got a therapist. So this is perfect to do with a therapist, which I
mm,
highly recommend for anyone reaching goals, is to have a therapist or a coach or someone that is external from them, because I'm not identified with your belief systems. So I can see your situation from a different perspective. And
mm.
that is what is supportive with a therapist, especially someone who does somatic work, which is fantastic to hear, Courtney, because then not only can we see what the fear or the belief or the trauma that's stuck in the body, we can also process it and resolve and release it. So
That'd be great.
yeah, so that's like generally it's so interesting, because when we talk about manifesting is very much to do with our emotional state, and then the other things come more effortlessly. Generally, that's what happens. So if we deal with the intrinsic motivation, the intrinsic aspects and qualities, then what we're going to have is those external things are going to come, like the opportunities, the way that we work, those will come a lot easier. It won't be okay, it might be simple, but it might not be always just really easy, because our protector has another view on things, and our belief systems that are subconscious, sometimes they get in the way. But once we really honor the protector and feeling safe and those sort of things, we can start to gain evidence as to why it's so important to look in and work with the intrinsic stuff, we're gaining this evidence of going, oh, that's the alignment piece. This is what it feels like to be aligned. And generally you will manifest really quickly from that place.
Oh.
So what I like with both of you is that you have resources, and investing. You're both investing in therapy. You invest in, you know, even your business. If you can get that grant, Courtney, that's like the next one that I say, like, what are your resources? And create a stepping stone from those resources. Sounds like you're both doing that, because I know, Kate, your resource is skills and also getting resources to together to like, you know, renovate your home, right?
Or whatever I'm doing, yes.
Yeah, it's your zone of genius. And Courtney, it sounds like you're going for that grant. It sounds like, you know, you're very intelligent as well. So I always look at these resources of like, what can support me? What is the stepping stone to get to where I want to be? And then, but having the goal there, like having this goal, doing the intrinsic, extrinsic, and then picking the stepping stones that support you. So like, what are stepping stones? Even if you have to think about
I didn't realize I had a goal either. I'm just sitting here thinking,
yeah,
like, I'm doing things, but I should have a goal. Yeah, cool.
well, you know, you're someone,
I
Kate,
kind of doing goaly things, but yeah.
yes, yeah, you're someone who has goals naturally. Like a lot of people, like
Oh,
so even just I know that you've built huts and stuff before, right? So
yeah.
those are very tangible goals, because you're like,
Yep.
I'm gonna do this, and that's like your zone of genius is to be resourceful, to build, and that sort of stuff. And so that's quite a tangible goal. The way we make it tangible is we do create like, what would I, you know, what would I like? I would like to renovate this home, and I would like it to look like this, and then I can invite people over and have connection.
Yep.
It's going to be warm, like, you know, then you have the feelings that come up with it.
And I've also got goals around financial like stuff as well, and improving my business.
Yes,
Which I'm working on. I'm working on
yeah.
going and doing a course at the moment and learning a lot and stuff.
So with the business, do the same thing. How do I want to
Yeah.
feel? How do I want to feel? What would my business being successful, what would that feel like for me? And really go into that space of that feeling space, because generally the only thing that Kate, for you, that I know you well with the huts and stuff, say what we generally think is the goal is going to make us happy, but what it is, and often that's not the case, right? So what it is, it's the feeling we think we're going to get from achieving that goal. And so if we can bring in that feeling today, tomorrow, weekly, if we can bring in that feeling of happiness, then when we achieve that goal, we're already at that space of feeling happy. It's just that specific thing is going to also increase our happiness, but we're not relying on it to make us happy.
Yeah, because chasing things to feel something. It's not, yeah.
Exactly. And so that's why, like, you know, the yoga and the everyday things that we do for ourselves, that is what helps us step into being able to like live into that goal. So like feeling good will be important when you achieve the goal of renovating your house, because once you do that, and if you're feeling good along the way.
Well, yeah, like with the other one, I wasn't able to even really enjoy it.
That's it. So there you go. That's part of your goal, is to enjoy.
So if I look back at it, like I'm probably, if I think about it, there's probably a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes in my head about the after, you know, I finished it and stuff. Yeah. So.
Yes, and it's great. So now you can be, part of your goal can be, I would like to enjoy it along the way. And
yes.
And the interesting thing about that is that even just intuitively, I feel into it and go, oh my gosh, if you're enjoying it along the way and you're bringing people into the process, you're already building your community around it before you've even achieved the goal itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Courtney, how are you going with it all that information?
Yeah, it's funny, but when we first started, and you know, knowing what I want to do and a little bit knowing why it's not happening, it's almost simplified it of, and we've said it a few times already, cultivate the feelings of the top of that chart where you're grounded and you're present through your yoga and all of your mindfulness. That it's almost like as a little spot check. It's like, if I'm not feeling that, I can't sit down and start to execute ideas for the business, because I'm not in that space to, you know, be like, don't make those decisions from fear and an anxious state of your nervous system. So if I can focus, even for the next little while, grant or not, cultivating groundedness and calm presence before I step into a 2-hour block of time that I might think, oof, maybe I'll just do something for the business, rather than jumping in because, gosh, the 2 hours came up on the clock, and sitting down and sinking into overwhelm and scrolling and doing absolutely nothing that I'd planned. It's like, start from the absolute root basis, and then see what happens, because it just makes so much sense when I'm a Virgo, so I'm a chart girl. So the chart just makes so much sense to like revert back to and say, well, where do I think I am right now? I'm not going to spend the next 2 hours, and I'm going to procrastinate. That's going to annoy me. And then I'm going to go further down into those, you know, I don't know the names of the sections, but of your sections. And then that was the pointless use of time. Maybe I spend 20 minutes doing some meditation or mindfulness or yoga, and then jump into an hour and a half of potential good work.
Oh, music to my ears, Courtney.
That sounds good. I need to take your leaf out of your book.
Yes, that's so
if I'm feeling a
great.
bit anxious, I was just trying to do these invoices that I couldn't even think straight before, because I'd done something wrong, and I was like, and I ended up leaving it. I was like, had I just made myself relaxed in the first place?
Yeah. But also to not be hard on yourself, to be like, oh, okay, this is a new skill that I can cultivate.
Yes.
Right. So believe you can have more than what you have now. That's something big.
Yeah. I need to make that into a poster.
Yes. Yes, it's something big that as soon as I believed this for myself, then I started to really sort of work towards my goals and gather the evidence of why this is true. So I think as long as you've got a belief that you can have more than what you have now, that ambition, that drive will be there. And you both have that because you're on this call, you're curious. You both sound like really, you know, like you're doing things that are in creation, like you're creating and birthing things. So I love that. And then my last thing is, if you got yourself where you are today, you can get yourself to where you want to be. And I think this is really big, especially Kate, I know where you've been with building you've built, and I think this for me personally, I studied enviroscience and I worked my way up. I traveled around Australia to find, like, to be the environmental scientist I wanted to be. And when I realized that I'd worked so hard and I studied really hard, and I realized I didn't want to do it anymore, I didn't want to be in the industry, I said to myself, if I got myself here, then I can achieve whatever else I want to achieve, because I worked so hard to get there. So I thought, okay, if I put my energy towards this other thing that I want to achieve, then I'm going to achieve it, because the evidence shows me that I can achieve these things. Same with you, Courtney. You said that you've studied and you've got 2 children. So like you've got so much stuff in that, like giving energy wise as well. And like, if you can raise 2 children, I even think, like, if you can raise 2 children, you can do anything, you know.
Yeah, I like that you saying, in a way, use yourself as a good reference point.
Yes.
You know, but you know,
because the other thing you can do is look at what you did, and don't feel like you're doing now and feel sorry for yourself. So it's but you can actually, or feel like you're not.
That's it.
So, but yes, you're right. Yes.
And what were you saying, Courtney?
Another good one is, and again, because I am in a field of helping people, I often speak in ways that if I apply it to myself. So some things I like to share is with my clients is talk to yourself as if you're talking to a friend, reverse it. So if a friend came to you with this set of problems, with this set of information, you would speak with empathy and compassion, and you would meet them where they're at. That we're so quick to judge and so quick to disregard, you know, like you said before, you sat down to do some invoicing or to fill 2 hours of your day and you didn't, that's okay. Because if your friend had come over and said, oh, just tried to do work for 2 hours and didn't, you say that's okay, and there'll be some more time. And I think that if we're a little bit more kinder with our self-talk, in terms of, but obviously for everything, but if we're just looking at the goals we're trying to work on, it really helps shift the lens of releasing negativity around it, because we're all imperfect humans. It's not going to just take off on a rocket from tomorrow, but
Yes.
if we just allow that compassion and that gentleness, I think can be a really big help.
Absolutely. And that compassion and gentleness really does come from a place of at the top of the nervous system, because as you said, we wouldn't speak to a friend like that. But the interesting thing, the only reason we speak to ourselves like that is because we've internalized, when we were little, we've internalized the way that we've been treated. So that that's where our protector and our limiting beliefs come from, because we may have created some kind of belief along the way that is shutting our system down from creating space for ourselves, or from slowing down, or whatever it is that it's sort of trying to protect us from. So this internalization, we don't see it, like we don't have that identified with our friends. That's why we can go with a friend, we can be like, oh, you seem to be like hard on yourself by saying that. I think that you're doing an incredible job and you're so intelligent. I see all these amazing things about you. And it's hard for us to see them about ourselves. So one other thing you can do is reach out to some friends and ask them, what are my strengths? And just see what they say. See what they say. I sort of suggest like even 5 friends or even 3 friends. Just say, I've got a little request from a therapist to ask what my strengths are, and to hear them, sometimes we're surprised. I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, and sometimes, because they can just see that thing, but then it can also reaffirm for us, oh, they're looking from the outside in, so there's truth to what they're saying.
Yeah, nice one. I like that.
Right. Anything else I can do for you both on this call? What's your takeaway? I would love to hear what your takeaway is, actually.
I think, just going back to the simplifying it with the feel, which is so poignant with what I'm learning with my somatic therapist, in that we organically have something that's come up, we work on that, and I've observed shifts in my own, I'm not really sure how to put it, but like, it's not really self-talk, but I was doing a lot of ruminating on some trauma, like some very big experiences that I'd had, and I've been able to shift the narrative and quieten down pointless ruminating conversations that weren't helpful in that instance. And I think that it's like every time I speak to someone and extend myself in this space, I learn more about how powerful I can be to apply small changes and pivot in just the way that then will allow the things I'm looking for to be, created, and to, like we were saying with the manifesting. And I was starting to lose my optimism just in certain parts of my life that was really surprising and annoying to me. And I was like, oh, I just used to feel so positive and optimistic in this sense. And it's kind of like I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, of course this stuff applies with work, but work's not been my focus thus far in my therapy work, just because it just is ticking along. But ultimately, I would love to shift it to the forefront, because it's something I've been wanting to do. But like we said at the beginning, the Groundhog Day and mouse wheels we get stuck on, hence why we've joined, because it's about stuckness. Yeah. And so, I just like that it's something I've just been learning about, and this light bulb moment of, oh, I can apply some of those learnings and plus what you've mentioned here in this space.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you, Courtney. Thanks for your engagement too.
So welcome. Thank you again, for your time. It's been amazing.
You were all so good. Thank you. Kate, what about you?
Me? Oh, well.
Come on down.
I believe I can have something more than what I have now.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote down stuff, but grounding as well. It's like I
Yeah.
want to be in the ventral vagal, right? That's what it's called.
Yes.
I want to be hanging out in there all like as much as I can.
Yeah. Great.
And so a bit more like I'm doing it as much as I can. But even today I got I can feel it though. Went fight or flight really fast. I posted a car for sale for $500 because I was like, I just want this thing gone. I'm sick of it. I couldn't get anyone to take it away like a wrecker. Anyway, these people just came, and then I Googled it as they were coming. This was so fast it happened. I was like, what? People are, anyway, that I read that you were meant to do it this certain way. And they're like, no, you can sell it with the plates. And I was like, I'm doing something wrong. Like, I don't have a roadworthy. Anyway, it all ended up fine. But it's just so interesting how my nervous system is so ready to freak out because it all happened so fast. And then I was like, I haven't researched how to sell a car, and they're coming in 20 minutes.
Well, it's so great that you bring that in and to be able to like support your nervous system, because the signal.
And I could feel my nervous system just going,
Yes.
but I was like, yeah.
And I'm with you with like, we all want to live in ventral, like that's where we want to live. The signal though, and the beautiful thing about our human body, being human, having a fear response, is that it's a signal to tell you.
Yeah, that something's not right.
Something's not right. So upon reflection, you can look into that and go, hey, wait a minute, next time I sell something like that, what I have learned.
Do a little bit of research first.
And it will support my nervous system, so then I
won't. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, because it's going to happen, but it's like, it's like, I was just like, it's just really interesting. But it's so quick to go, wow.
Yeah. And it had good reason though. See how it had good reason, because you're like, oh, I haven't researched.
Well, it's saying you're not meant to sell it with the number. I said, yeah, it's got rego, like it's only a month. I didn't care. And I was just like, yeah, take them. And then it said like on Vic Roads that you're meant to have it roadworthy if you're doing that. But then he's like, no, it's fine. I bought heaps of cars. And I was like,
ooh. It can be quite practical, can't it?
I see now when you put it out like that, it like made sense that I was like having. Anyway, he's like, I just give you my license and we do this thing, and I did it and it worked, and I guess it's fine. But it was like, oh.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yes, believing in myself, grounding. I like that we internalize how we have been treated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I would like to get that in my head a bit more about how that then is how you speak to yourself.
Yes. Yep. We can look at that, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, there was lots of good things. I really like to be able to feel safe in regards to the house and having people here, because I really get quite easily irritated.
I look forward to doing a session with you on that.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you both for such a great session. Beautiful engagement. I wish you all the best with your goal.
Thank you. And I'm glad it says 5:30, but it's actually 6:30 here. That's actually really good.
Yes.
In Victoria.
Yeah, 5:30 Queensland time, because we don't have daylight saving.
Yeah, so that's good for me, because I was like,
you just gained an hour.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Party time. Yep.
Please, geez, it was a good session. Well done.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Thelma.
Thank you both. See you later.
Thanks, Thelma. Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Welcome. Bye.
Cheers.